In 2007, a US government inspector walked into the United Nations and said something that made the room go silent. She warned that experiments in the sky were damaging crops, contaminating water, and changing sunlight itself. Her name was Rosalind Peterson, and the reason you never heard of her is the part of the story.
What?
Welcome back to the People's Perspective, where we unpacked what matters decoded for people who actually think. Tonight, we revisit a forgotten UN speech and the woman behind it. A whistleblower who tried to warn the world that climate experiments could destroy the very food we depend on. And because it's not all the bad news, stay with me till the end for the happy news of the week. And this one is about bizarre deep sea creature called death ball sponge. Rosalind Peterson wasn't a conspiracy theorist. She was a USDA crop loss adjuster, the kind of person who deals in soil samples, rainfall data, and the realities of farming. In 2007, she stood at the United Nations 60th DP NGO conference in New York, a meeting focused on climate change and its impact on humanity. When her turn came, she raised a question no one wanted to hear. What if some of the changes are blamed on climate aren't purely natural, but it is a result of human experiments? Our skies are no longer clear blue. Aircraft are spreading man-made clouds that block the sun, affect agriculture, and contaminate our air and soil. That placed her far outside the comfort zone of the UN's Polish climate narrative. She claimed that dozens of weather modifications programs were already active across the United States, changing local rainfall, temperature, and sunlight without a single environmental or agricultural study assessing the consequences. Whether she was right or not, one thing was certain: she had evidence that no one wanted to analyze. Rosalind Peterson's story begins long before the UN podium. She had spent years visiting farms across California, documenting losses caused by drought, frost, and unusual atmospheric changes. Farmers complained of trees dying for no real reason. Leaves burned on one side, soil showing traces of aluminium and barium. She began compiling data comparing official weather records with aircraft activity and discovered a sharp rise in man-made cloud cover. To her, the link was undeniable. Planes were altering the climate at local scale. She wasn't the first to notice. The US government had admitted to decades of weather modification and experiments, from Project Storm Fury to cloud seeding for rain, but no one had connected it to food production until she did. These programs change the microclimates needed for crops to thrive. No one has done the research. Agriculture is at risk. The media barely notice. Within the Polish speeches about carbon reduction, her warning sounded almost inconvenient. She called for immediate transparency, a full registry of all atmospheric programs, and for independent testing of soil and water. Nothing happened. Yet, step by step, the research she asked for quietly began, but under a different name. Now it's called geoengineering. Instead of secret experiment, it was reframed as climate intervention, a scientific effort to reflect sun and cool the planet. Official reports from NOAA and the EPCC now list stratospheric aerosol injections among possible climate strategies, while warning of significant uncertainties and potential agricultural side effects. Exactly the issues Peterson had described 18 years earlier. Her 2007 concern that reducing sunlight would alter photosynthesis and disturb rainfall is to date modeled in peer-reviewed studies. One 2025 paper comparing three solar dimming scenarios found that some regions might benefit while others would lose crop yield. The difference is scale. Peterson feared a hidden program. Scientists now discuss it in open, a new global version. The irony is haunting. When we block the sun, we block life itself. She wasn't opposing science. She was pleading for accountability, but in the late 2000s, accountability had no audience. The moment she mentions aerosols and metal confirmation, she was grouped with fringe voices and ignored. Yet, she kept documenting, collecting photographs, and pressing local officials for answers. She founded the Agriculture Defense Coalition to archive every weather modification permit she could find. If government agencies wouldn't investigate, she would. One document at a time. But information wars have rules, and Peterson was breaking them. Her framing collided with another growing narrative, one that claimed a global chemtrail operation was secretly poisoning the planet. She never used that term, but others attached it to her work. The nuance was lost. The algorithms buried her in noise, and the serious questions she asked was ridiculed. Now, if you saw our previous episode about Kristen Megan, the Air Force industrial hygienist who raised similar concern from inside the military, you will notice a pattern. Two women, both from technical backgrounds, both arguing oversight in programs most people didn't even know existed. Different evidence, different conclusions, but same response: silence. If you haven't watched that story yet, I recommend going back into it. It adds an important layer what you are hearing tonight. I link the video here and of course in the description below as well. Back to Peterson. Her UN intervention didn't end in applause. Official notes from the conference don't even list her topic. But years later, small parts of her testimony resurfaced in scientific discussions. Stripped of her name, of course. The same problems she pointed out now appear in sober language. Potential impacts on hydrology, soil chemistry, and photosynthetic efficiency. What was once alarmist become peer-reviewed uncertainty. History tends to vindicate inconvenient voices. Unfortunately, it does quietly without the credit. And yet, we need balance. Mainstream science still rejects claims of secret atmospheric spraying. Reuters, NASA, and multiple universities have shown that lines we see in the sky are standard jet contrails under specific humidity conditions. That's real and it matters. But so does the fact that the government are funding climate alterations research openly and admitting they don't fully understand the risk. Peterson's original question, who studies the side effects, remains unanswered. As of 2025, multiple countries support limited-scale solar dimming tests, and most admit the models for regional rainfall and agriculture are incomplete, which means, scientifically speaking, of course, her call for agriculture oversight was valid. She was ahead of her time, not in conspiracy, but in the foresight and facts. Rosalind Peterson passed away. She didn't live to see her warnings reframed as research proposal. She only wanted honest science, open science. If it's good for the planet, it should withstand public scrutiny. That's a fair standard, and one we still haven't met. Today, Bill Gates is officially taking and obviously financing geoengineering, something once considered a conspiracy theory, now a reason to be proud. The story of late Rosalind Peterson shows how easily uncomfortable questions vanish under labels. It also reminds us that science and secrecy never mix well. When citizens sense they are being left out of the conversation, trust collapses, even when the research might be well intentioned. Rosalind Peterson's life wasn't about conspiracies. It was about accountability, a word that disappears too quickly in climate debates. Whether you agree with the conclusions or not, the fact that one of the world's biggest institutions could hear such a warning and simply move on should make us all make a pause. We talk about transparency in data, in AI, in governments, but transparency in climate policy remain optional. And that's the dangerous because the line between public good and private experiment blurs again. We will face her questions all over. Who studies the side effects? Next week, we switch gears to Follow the Money series when we look at what happens to data being collected through your apps, your phone, even your browser. Who owns it, where it goes, and what it's quietly building towards. You want to see that one. Deep beneath the icy waters near Antarctica, scientists have just found something truly bizarre. A carnivorous death ball sponge. Yes, a sponge that eats. Found more than 3,600 meters below the surface, it's covered in tiny hooks that trap prey, the exact opposite of the gentle sponges we know. This stranger creature is one of the 30 new deep-sea species discovered during the 2025 Necto Ocean Census expedition. The team used high-tech rovers and seafloor mapping to explore places no human had ever seen before. And within months, they confirmed dozens of new species from glowing worms to rare sea stars and even a colossal squid sighting. It's a reminder that our planet still holds mysteries deeper than imagination, and that the life finds a way even in the coldest, darkest corners of the world. If Rosalind's story made you rethink the geoengineering projects and what is ending up in our ground, share it. This is how awareness spreads. Thank you for sticking up until now and see you next week. New episode every Sunday evening, Turkish time. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, knowledge is the key.